Namaskar and very good evening to everyone. Okay, I'm very happy to see all of you in another session. So this is actually supposed to be the part 2 of the sadhana of Astanga Yoga and Painchakosa. But I see quite a number of new people. Okay. So it can be a part 2, and also I will again cover the basics or the fundamentals of this concept of Panchakosha. So I shall begin this session as usual by paying my obeisance to my Guru Deva, Sri Ananda Murthy. It's the founder of Ananda Marga, a socio-spiritual organization, which was founded to spread the teaching of yoga and also to serve the suffering humanity. So this is the statement by Gurudeva himself, that yoga is the path of progress, the path of development for each and every human being. In individual life, we should practice yoga, and in collective life, we should encourage others to practice yoga. It is the panacea of all human ailments in the physical realm, in the psychic realm, and also in the spiritual realm. So this is basically an initiative of the Ananda Marga Yoga Society of Kuala Lumpur, okay, to spread the teaching of Tantra Yoga. Okay. So this will be the outline of my presentation. So this is basically the topic which we are going to cover tonight is actually in relation to yoga. And yoga is basically an ancient path of self-culture which originated in India thousands of years ago. And yoga is both science and art. Okay. Why we call it science? Because it's a methodical. Okay? Its approach is methodical, and it has its effects on the physical anatomy, emotions, mind, and spiritual consciousness of the practitioner. If you practice it, you'll know the difference. And as per the tradition, yoga is a path towards the enlightenment. Okay, and as in the title, you see the word sadhana. Sadhana means sustained effort. Okay. There's effort everywhere, isn't it? Like even for our material progress, for our career advancement, for our survival. So we perform sadhana. So those kind of sadhana is known as prayer sadhana. Okay. So, and the other type of sadhana is Shreya sadhana. Shreya means internal. So here we are talking about internal sadhana. And in this particular context, I am referring very specifically to the sadhana of Astanga Yoga. Okay, so there are many types of sadhana. Even school of Vedanta, they perform sadhana. The school of Zen Buddhism, they do. Tibetan Buddhism, they also perform sadhana. So there are, so all sadhana, all form of sadhana works. It is what you call effective to attain the goal. So what is Astanga Yoga? So Astanga Yoga is actually a complete yoga system consisting of 8 limbs. Okay. Asta means 8, or rather 8 systematic practices to attain ultimate goal of self-unfoldment. You can also use the word enlightenment. Okay, but I choose to use the word self-unfoldment, so I'll explain to you why later. So in Astanga Yoga, you have this 8 limb, yama, niyama. So you can also loosely translate it as objective and subjective balance. Okay, a spiritual, a yogic practitioner must practice yama and niyama. So through yama, you bring an objective balance through your external, towards your external environment. And niyama, you maintain an internal, that is a subjective balance within yourself. Okay, and asana, okay, means adopting a steady posture. It also has a deeper meaning. Okay, asana also meant for the mind. Pranayama is a practice of breath control. Pratyahara is how you withdraw your senses, instead of letting the senses to move outward, you bring it inward. Otherwise, you will not begin the practice of or the process of meditation will not begin. And after you successfully bring a balance to the first 5 limbs, the real meditation begins with dharana. Okay, and dharana leads to dhyana and samadhi. Okay, and we are not going to cover this in detail. And some of you here have attended my Ashtanga Yoga course. Okay, but still, the subject of today is related to that, the whole Ashtanga Yoga. Okay? And for the benefit of some of the beginners here, so I'm just giving a quick snapshot about Ashtanga Yoga. Okay, I already explained that earlier. So, what are the 8 limbs of yoga? So, etymologically, the word yoga means union. Okay, so, and there are a few definitions of yoga. So here we will focus on the tantric definition, which the school of Ananda Marga follows. Sam yoga ityukto jivatma paramatmana, means yoga is the union of jivatma, or the individual soul or consciousness, and paramatma, or the universal soul or universal consciousness. So a beginner in the path of yoga should understand that yoga is how an individual stay in tune with his or her higher consciousness or paramatma. This process begins by understanding one's own consciousness, which is also known as the jivatma. Okay, so it is important to familiarize yourself with these terms, but again, you don't have to worry about the technicalities of it. Okay. So basically, jiva refers to our state of consciousness, okay, being an individual. And jivatma, okay, so jivatma means the witness of jiva. It's your consciousness, the aspect of consciousness. In jiva, you have your body and mind and your ego. So jivatma is the witness of jiva, okay, and paramatma is the witness of jivatma. Okay, don't worry about the technicalities. So they use this simile in the Upanishads, okay, that 2 birds live in the same tree. Okay, so a few Upanishads use the same simile. Mandukya Upanishad, the Mundaka Upanishad, even in Brihad Aranyakya Upanishad, they use this simile. Okay, like there's a tree which represents the human body, and there are 2 birds. So one refers to Jivatman, and the other one is Paramatman. The Jivatman, the other bird will eat the fruit. Okay, the fruits represent the experiences from the external world. So sometimes the fruit is sweet, sometimes the fruit is bitter, sometimes it's sour, and so on, just like our experiences in life. And the other bird will stay calm without eating the fruit. Okay, so they will narrate the story like that in the Upanishad. And it seems one day the fruit-eating bird became very curious why the other bird is not eating, but it's staying calm and very peaceful. And it begins a journey to know the secret of happiness from the other bird. And you start to jump every branch, So in the story, the tree is a very huge tree. So, and the other bird was sitting on the top branch. And eventually this bird reached the top to find the other bird. But when he reached the top, there's no other bird. It seems this bird is that bird. So all the while, the fruit-eating bird is actually it's a shadow consciousness of the other bird. So that is the state of Jivatma. Okay, so the God that everyone is worshipping, everyone is striving to achieve. Okay, or maybe you try to reach heaven to meet God, but that is within your very consciousness. It is your higher consciousness. That is the idea that this story in the Upanishad is trying to convey. Okay, so the same thing. The difference between Jivatma and Paramatma, two identical birds that are eternal companions, perch in the very same tree. One eats many fruits with various tastes, while the other just looks on. Okay, so this is an explanation of an idea which our Guru Deva tried to articulate about this concept of Paramatma. So you see, the highest goal of Dharma is spiritual progress. The terminating point of excellence is Paramatma, or the supreme cognition. Where is the abode of this Paramatma? Its abode is the human mind. It is meaningless and unnecessary to run hither and thither and to journey to so-called places of pilgrimage in quest of Paramapurusha, because he is seated right inside the eye feeling of human mind. He's not an object of a distant heaven. Okay? So the same thing which we discussed earlier in the, based on this Mundaka Upanishad. So it's being articulated here again in slightly different way. So again, so Paramatma, you're just getting an idea about the state of consciousness, a higher consciousness. However, what is important is for us to begin somewhere. So talking about the concept of yoga, so we said yoga is the union of Jivatma and Paramatma. You don't know what is Paramatma, for sure. Okay, you can get an idea, you can intellectually understand about it, you can read scripture, you can read all kind of book about it. Okay, you can read Yoga Sutra, you can read Brahma Sutra, you can read Upanishads, the Bhagavad Gita, and so on and so forth. But still, that is still an idea. Okay, then again, Jivatman, even the concept of Jivatman, again, you can read from all this kind of sources, but yet it will still remain an idea. But Jivatman is you. So there's a possibility of knowing this Jivatma through experience. Okay, that is the approach of yoga. Okay, so the one universal consciousness, okay, that Paramatma appears as countless life forms of Jivatma, humans, animals, plants, mineral life form, so on. Okay, and every Jivatman will go through all these life forms, okay, according to the philosophy of yoga. And even according to many masters, they're saying the same thing, that we have gone through, our consciousness gone through many life forms, and the human form is the highest or the most evolved form. And in this very form, in this human form, you have the capacity, or you have the potential to realize your real consciousness, your ultimate state of being, which is Paramatma. Okay, when the mind reaches Paramatman, both Jivatman and Paramatman become one. Okay, this is the goal of yoga. Another way of putting it is, like in the last bullet, as you can see, Jivatman reaches Paramatman by abandoning its individuality. It means we live with an individual consciousness characterized by an ego. All of us have an ego, and because of this ego, you can see yourself separately from others and the rest of the world. Okay, so a practitioner of yoga or any practitioner of meditation, okay, which take a similar approach like yoga, the target is the ego. Okay, so if you suspend the ego for a brief period, you will attain samadhi. and will enjoy the state of higher consciousness. Okay, and ultimately, when you give up this ego, you will no longer exist as an ego, and this state is known as moksha. Okay, so as I mentioned mentioned earlier, so both this theory about Jivatma or Paramatma, or even the world itself, is all very theoretical. But there's a possibility to understand your consciousness as Jiva. Okay, so the individual consciousness or Jiva manifests in the form of Jiva primarily. Sorry, in the form of Chitta primarily. So Chitta is the objective mind. In a more subtler level, it is in the state of Aham or doer awareness and Mahat or I exist consciousness. Okay? So basically, we, the Jiva, exist in several states. So the primary mode of consciousness is called Chitta. Within the Chitta, there is Aham or the doer or the ego consciousness. Beyond ego, there is your I consciousness. Okay, I will explain this further. Okay, so the entire practices. So today we're going to focus on what is Chitta. Okay, so Chitta is basically the consciousness that you are in now. Okay, you have your self-awareness. That is actually Chitta. So this Chitta is in the 5 layers. So that is why it is. I mean, that is what is called Painchakosa. Okay? Chitta is in the form of Painchakosa, like 5 layers, just like onion. You can, when you peel off the onion, it's layer after layer, or the plantain flower. Okay, so generally, as individuals, most of us identify ourselves with our name, gender, ethnicity, race, profession, social status, religion, and so on. The state called Jiva, or the Jiva, is a state of being an individual with self-awareness, survival instincts, and other motives. Okay, the self-awareness is what I mentioned as a Mahat or I consciousness, and Aham or ego. And your survival instinct is manifest through your Chitta. Okay, so understanding our sense of individuality is the first step in yoga. You see, from the list that I have, it's about 12 people that were supposed to attend the class today. Except 1 or 2, most of you have learned sadhana. I mean, you have some form of sadhana. The majority is from Ananda Marga, and some of you from other school. Okay, but so, and I strongly believe that you're attending this session to get a better understanding and also to improve upon sadhana. And the important point that I would like to stress here is that understanding your individuality or yourself is the primary step in yoga. Okay, because I mean, the concept regarding Paramatma and all that is beyond your understanding as of now. Okay, so let us see this again. Okay, these are the various degree of consciousness. Okay, so you have the Jiva Atman on top. Okay, that is your consciousness, the source, and you have this Mahat, or the consciousness of I am. The great saint Ramana Maharishi, from Arunachal, he always talk about this. He said, the first thought, or the first awareness of an individual is this I. Okay, but in ordinary level, we don't feel this I. Okay, the other one is Aham. Aham means a consciousness where you feel that you are the doer of every action. Okay, and Chitta is also known as done I. So what is this done I? So I have to give you an example. So basically, done I means we as an individual, we do a lot of actions. You eat, you watch movies, you go to work, you interact with people. Each of this action will have a reaction. This action will be reflected in your mind. And the collective reaction or collective impression that you collect from all those action is the feeling of done I. Okay, in the subsequent slides, I will give you an example. Okay, so like as I mentioned earlier, so what is this? I am, I do, and done I. Okay, so you will see this step by step. Okay? So chitta is a state of mind from which every human being operates. Okay, so you have a physical body. Okay, so we all know, and this physical body will be operated by by your mind, but this mind it has 5 layers, which is we can use the term conscious mind, subconscious, and unconscious. Okay, this conscious, subconscious, and unconscious is a term of modern psychology. In yoga, we call conscious as a crude mind, subconscious as a subtle mind, and the unconscious as the causal mind. Okay, and it has 3 more layers. In the Western psychology, for example, Sigmund Freud or Carl Jung, so they only vaguely use the term unconscious. Okay, but in the Yoga Shastra, so this unconscious mind is known as causal mind. So it has 3 more layers, which is known as supramental, subliminal, and subtle causal. So all these 5 is collectively is known as Painchakosa. And the sadhana of Ashtanga Yoga, so you actually you unfold each of these layers until you can experience the state of Atman. So let us see this. This is one of the sutra from our Gurudeva. Karmaphala chitta. Okay, so we try to understand. We are trying to understand this chitta from another perspective. Karmaphala chitta. So which translates as chitta takes the form of the results of actions. Okay, so I give you an example here. This drinking coffee. Okay, so it's an easy example. You may like coffee or you may like tea. Okay, so suppose you as a person, you learn to drink coffee for the first time. So it's a first experience. So you drink the coffee. So this happens through this chitta. No? So, I mean, you of course you collect this. I mean, you experience this through your senses. You drink, and you have your taste bud and all that. So, and coffee also has an aroma. So all these coffee experience you will get as a first experience. And let's say you like it very much, you start to drink it the next day. Okay, and not just one time, start in morning, afternoon, evening, and it become a daily habit. After some time, this become a very strongly ingrained habit. So in the beginning, any action, as a sane individual, you are supposed to be aware of what are you doing. But in this context, when coffee became an experience, a very deep experience, and you become so addicted to coffee, and suppose let's say you have a fixed time to drink coffee, 4 o'clock in the evening or 9 o'clock in the morning. It's like, oh, I can, you have this awareness, like, oh, I can't live without coffee. Okay, that's where you have this experience of done I. Done I means this what do you call the coffee is an action. So the reaction is your memory, and it actually prompts you to drink it again and again and again. So that is just coffee. So you watch movies, okay? You are engrossed in your work. Okay, let's say someone is a police officer. So they do a certain type of work, seeing criminal, reading a criminal's profile, or someone is a lawyer. Okay, they will be seeing cases. They have to find a ways to allow the client to escape, from punishment. So like that, or maybe somebody is a doctor. They keep on writing prescription, seeing the patient. So all these, you are taking a lot of memories inside, and the identification with those action become very strong. That's where chitta dominates your consciousness. Okay, and you can also take an example of watching movie. Like I think most of you watch Netflix nowadays, and some Netflix like to promote series mostly. Okay, one season will have about 8 episodes. Sometimes it goes up to 3 seasons, and you become so attached to it, you just watch. And because Netflix, you can just watch straight away. You continuously watch 8 episodes in a single day or in 2 days. Did you watch what happened? Your consciousness becomes so engrossed with the storyline, with the characters in the movie, with all the conflicts in the movie. Even when you sleep, you dream about it. This is how chitta become contaminated. Okay, like that, we contaminate chitta on daily basis without what I call choosing what to do in your life. Okay, it means you just what I call do everything according to your whims, according to how the objective world attracts you. Okay. On the contrary, a yogic practitioner should be aware, should be self-aware all the time, should decide what to do and when to do, So every action should be evaluated properly. Okay. Otherwise, just like this coffee experience or Netflix experience or any other experience, you will keep on gathering information, and those information will begin to make decision on your behalf. So your higher state of awareness, like aham and what you call mahat, will be dormant. So the first step in yoga is to understand this chitta and understand the chitta and its mode of action. Okay. Okay. Now let's see the mode of action. Okay. In the sutra form, so they say Panchakosatmika Jaivi Sattva Kadali Puspava, means a living being. So this chitta is in the form of 5 layers or 5 koshas. Okay, see in the body. So the body is Annamaya Kosha. It is known as Kosha Annamaya Kosha because it's made of food. Anna means food. And all the koshas is outside of the body. So they're not visible to this naked eye. Okay, they're not inside. Huh? So many people think that all this mind is inside. No. The body is the crudest form. The subtler one is actually much bigger than the body, but they are not solid like the human body. Okay. Now, so like what we saw in the earlier diagram. So you see at the lowest in this triangle. So Annamaya Kosha is the body, and the body, it has the what do you call senses. Okay, and then it deals with the external world. Okay. So your what do you call we keep collecting information from the external world with the help of the senses, but the senses is being will go through the portion of mind which is known as the conscious, which I explained earlier, or the karmamaya kosa. Okay? This one governs the activities of the body, okay, for survival. If only karmamaya kosa dominates, okay, we're talking about instinct of survival. So there are four instincts: it's fear, food, sleep, and sex. Okay, fear controls all these three, and these basic instincts are for the survival of every species. Okay, so if you are, as a human being, if you are dominated by karmamaya kosha, so that means you are a very crude human being, and most other life forms, they are dominated by karmamaya kosha. But human beings are relatively more developed because your actions are not guided solely by your instinct, not by your karmamaya kosha, but also the manomaya kosha is also active, the subconscious mind. So through this mind, the thinking faculty works, means your intellectual faculties also work. And these two are the most dominant layers in a common human being. Okay, these two are the dominant layers in the chitta of most human beings. And what about the other layers beyond the manomaya kosa, the subconscious mind? For example, atimanasa, the vijnanamaya, and hiranmaya kosa. These three higher layers is the layer of intuition. Okay, and it works. If you ask the question whether these layers really work in normal people, in common people, yeah, it works. But you are not aware of it most of the time. Okay, but it works like sometimes you receive some premonition. Okay, you may have some prophetic dream. Something's going to happen, or even in the waking state, you feel one kind, suddenly you receive a call that maybe your grandmother is sick, okay, or something happened to your close friend. Okay, this can happen, or you receive something beforehand. For example, when I was during my pre-university days, twice I received I received some information about the exam paper. It's through dream, not through some other form of cheating, but in the dream. So I got this, I received the exact information about a certain question. So this happens to the unconscious mind. Okay, but that happened accidentally because you see, I was studying on one subject and I was concentrating on it, and I just dozed off, and the thing appeared. Okay, so that's what happened to this Newton. So he was focusing, concentrating, and trying to understand about gravity. Suddenly, when the apple fall, so intuitively understood the concept. Same thing happened to Darwin, Charles Darwin, with regards to the theory of evolution. Okay, now back to here. So Kama Maya and Manomaya Kashas active, and you somehow govern your Kamamaya Kosha through your education, through some moral teaching, whatever that you receive through your Manomaya Kosha. Could be from your religion, could be from your moral education, and so on. Okay. Of course, you can be a good person by managing Kamamaya and Manomaya Kosha, but then it will not give you the eternal happiness. It will not bring you the stability, constant stability. So through yogic practice, you will actually unfold these higher layers and will take control of your life. Okay, it's not like magic, you have to work for it. Okay, and you won't be able to unfold the unconscious straight away. First, you have to stabilize. Okay? Each yogic practice in the Ashtanga Yoga will actually work on one of the questions. So, like what I said earlier, most people operate through the conscious and subconscious. A beginner in the part of yoga sadhana, we will try to understand and gain mastery over the body and both the conscious and subconscious mind. In the next phase, he or she will unfold the unconscious mind and enjoy a more expanded state of awareness. First start, okay? You may not know Paramatma, you may not touch the state of Atman, but you will experience maybe the glimpse of Atman. That is what I meant by expanded state of awareness. And this is possible for everyone. So the body operates by constant interaction with the external world or the world of objects. This interaction is facilitated by the conscious mind, okay, or the karmaphala, which I explained earlier. And if the conscious mind alone dominates, the instinct guides the individual. Okay? However, in a developed human being, the subconscious mind also guides the individual. This means that the thinking faculty is involved in the survival of the individual. Beyond the subconscious mind, it is the realm of the unconscious mind or the intuitive faculty. The primary aim of yoga is to unfold this state. Okay. So here, I have explained this many times in a different session, but I shall explain. So you have this physical body, and if you don't take up what I call yogic practice, you can develop the body or maintain the balance in the body through diet, proper physical labor, and exercise. But in the yogic way, you do yogasana, okay, proper diet and physical labor. Your karmamaya kosha is balanced through the practice of yama and niyama. Okay, in normal people who don't take up yoga, through your life experience, physical clash, sickness, challenges, war, all this will develop this karmamaya kosha. For manomaya kosha, or the subconscious mind, it happens again. This kosha is developed through physical clash. For yogic practitioner, it happens through the practice of pranayama. And the first layer of this unconscious mind, Pathmanathan, this kosha will be developed through psychic clash and contact with more developed, or contact with higher mind, people with a more higher mind or someone with a higher spiritual awareness, and also through education. And for yogic practitioner, it happens through pratyahara. And next, the vijnanamaya kosa, or the subliminal mind. Okay, if you reach this mind, this state, okay, so you will be somebody like Buddha, okay, or Ramana Maharishi. So this is developed through dharana and yoga, and for normal people, this happens through psychic clash. Okay, that means your life experience. And the last one, the Hiranmaya kosha, this is developed through dhyan, or meditative practice. And for normal people, okay, who used to pray and all that, okay, in the most religious prayers, so somehow you can channel their mind through attraction for the great, and that can reach up to this Hiranmaya kosha. Actually, some Sangeet singers, those who these Indian classical singers, so they can actually reach the higher koshas just by singing. It's possible. Right. So before I go to the conclusion, I'll show one more thing. Like, if you see this again. Okay. So chitta is your normal state of awareness. Okay, like I say, through interaction with your external world and all that. And when you develop yourself through sadhana, through yogic practice, what you really do is you begin to unload your unwanted thought forms. Which is known as samskara. In Vedanta, they call it vasana. Okay? So people erroneously always call karma, it's my karma. It's not karma, it's karmaphala. So first you have to exhaust through this yogi practice. You exhaust this samskara, and your chitta become lighter. As your chitta become lighter, the aham becomes stronger. And with a stronger aham, your intellect will develop. Okay, that's a development of intellect. The more you develop the aham by managing your chitta, the more your intellect will develop. And when you take up higher practice, when you go to the higher meditation, higher meditative state, when you attain higher meditative state, where you reach Mahat, gradually, it develops your body or intuitive faculty. Okay, so that's how it works. But in the beginning, you have to work a lot with the chitta. You have to do a lot of service, selfless service, karma yoga, and spiritual practice. You have to study, you have to do swadhyaya, spiritual, regular study of scriptures, and so on. But now we come to the conclusion. Okay, so this Ashtanga Yoga is Dharma. Okay, why it is called Dharma? So because the purpose of Dharma is to attain perfect happiness, and perfect happiness is the attainment of the soul. There being only partial happiness in each kosha. That means you can enjoy life through your crude mind. All kind of happiness is there through your senses, but it's not a perfect happiness. It's only temporary happiness. You can enjoy happiness through your what you call subconscious mind. That's also not permanent. Okay, so long the soul is not attained, every kosha has to be perfected. Each kosha has to be taken care of. One kosha cannot be perfected to the exclusion of the rest. Where there is perfect happiness, there is dharma. So you can't rest until you attain the soul or the Atman, which is your actual state of being. Okay. I tried my level best to articulate the subject, okay, to make you understand about this concept of Panchakosa and Chitta. I shall open for discussion, questions or discussion. Thank you for listening. So we have another around 15 minutes. So I welcome any question or discussion. Your question can also be on spirituality in general. Some of you have attended the session before. You may have certain things that you wanted to. Anyone? Brother Vasan?
Oh, yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, so what I would like to tell again just now after the conclusion is that you have to be really serious with your sadhana. So if some of you haven't haven't learned any form of sadhana, I encourage you to do it as soon as possible, and make it a regular habit. Okay, it's advisable to sit twice a day. In the worst case scenario, try to at least do one proper sitting. And all the subject, is related to sadhana. So if you don't practice sadhana, just to listen the theory of it, it's not going to help you. Okay, so Ms. Gaikian, you have anything? Didn't hear from you for a long time.
Yeah, no questions at the moment.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. The one last call. If there's no more question, then yes.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Good evening, Navisha here.
Okay. Yes, Navisha. Good evening.
Okay, so I have this sort of question. So some gurus or teachers will be very radical and say, like, you shouldn't have likes and dislikes, something like that. So I think it's quite a radical idea to apply in your daily life, not so easily applied, because as humans with our experiences, naturally there are things that we like, things that we dislike. And we will partake in things that we enjoy, and we will, of course, avoid the things that we don't like. So what is your take on this? Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Navisha. See, so when they mention, I think maybe you have, maybe you are referring to one recent video that I shared by Swami Chinmayananda. He mentioned about it. Of course, he said about, so when you have likes and dislikes, you will not come to a state of balance. So basically, as a beginner, so you don't have to worry about likes and dislikes. Okay, so of course, naturally, we have certain likes, certain attachment for certain things, an attraction for some things, and some aversion. Okay, what they are trying to say is, if you want to experience the higher thing in life, just like what I mentioned earlier, the theory of chitta. So the chitta is full of likes and dislikes. Okay, chitta is a state of awareness. We can say the crudest form of awareness. And if you don't manage the chitta, okay, that can have a dire consequences in our life. Okay, so you can have a decent likes and dislikes. Okay, it means like you don't disturb other people's life, and you don't have any habit that is extreme. That is fine. But when some gurus say that you should go beyond likes and dislikes, okay, it's not like you cannot have likes and dislikes. You will have that. Even a very elevated spiritualist, they will still have likes and dislikes. In Tantra, okay, I will refer specifically. So Tantra, it says that you should manage your expressions. Okay, so it will actually highlight 6 enemies called kama, krodha. Kama means physical desire. Krodha means anger. Kama, krodha. Mada, vanity. Matcharya, jealousy. Moha, infatuation. And lobha, greediness. So the other 8, another one they call it asta pasha. So one is fear, bhaya. So the other one is hatred or grna. Okay, hatred or repulsiveness. Then there is kula, pride of lineage. Shila, pride of culture. Jugupsa or dissemblance. Mana or ego. And the other one is shanka or doubt, and laja or shame. So all these are natural expression, isn't it? Okay. And of course, some teachers may say you shouldn't have all this. You should avoid, but there's no such thing. Normally in the religious teaching, they will say, oh, it's very bad to get angry. It's very bad to have desire. But those are our natural expression. Okay. And Tantra says you cannot destroy or suppress this expression. You have to manage them. Okay, you should not let them to dominate you. Okay, so in the first phase, you don't let them to eat you. Okay, so that is a state known as Pashubhava. And there's a second stage known as Virabhava, where you have gained significant control over these expressions. And the third one is a Divya Bhava, where you have overcome these expressions, yet they will not leave you, because as long as you have a human body, you live as an individual, you will have those expressions. So likes and dislikes. So like, for example, like from this Astapasha, Girna. So that's also what you call Girna means hatred or repulsiveness. So someone is a vegetarian, so I like vegetarian, and they may have repulsiveness towards non-vegetarian food. So they will have so much of reaction. So that sort of reaction should not be there. Or maybe you are a tito, no, you are, you are a non-alcoholic. You don't like, you don't drink. But then you have hatred if you see someone who drinks alcohol, or you pass by a bar, you start to react. Okay, so this sort of reaction you should not have. Okay, that means you may not like something. That's fine, leave it, but don't make it some kind of dominant feeling in your mind. So you can even they're talking about likes, things that you like. You should not get carried away. Right? For example, when I mentioned about the 6, what do you call, ripu, right? Just now. So like one of it is moha or infatuation. The other one is karma or desire. Okay, and all these ripus and pashas, they don't what you call act singularly. So sometimes they combine. For example, moha and kama, when they combine together. So you like somebody, you have a desire for someone. Okay, so that first start with kama, and then you become so attached with that person, so engrossed with that person, become moha. So the effect multiplies, and that dominates your chitta. Okay, so your consciousness will play around with this, and for some time, when you like that person, this experience will go on for a few months or few years, and maybe there will come a point when something will end. And for all the attachment that you have, the intensity, you will have an opposite reaction for a longer period of time. So that's why they say you don't go into either extreme of likes and dislikes. You have to maintain a balance. Okay. For example, okay, again, if I use the same example, so you fall in love with somebody, someone, you get married. So of course, there's an element of moha and kama there. You get married. So you live a normal life, you beget children, so you continue with career. But as a sadhaka, spiritualist, will be aware that, yeah, I'm expressing myself. So naturally there's a desire for a partner, okay, start a family. All this is a natural expression of human being. But I'm also aware this is not permanent. Okay, so I'm doing this again because there's a samskara involved in it. That I had that desire to marry that person, okay, to start a family, and so on. Okay, so while undergoing that experience, you are also maintaining an awareness that you will eventually transcend it. This is the attitude a spiritualist should take. And what happens if you take that attitude? So you will move to a higher state of awareness. And it's a choice. You can live like that. If somebody said, "No, I'm at peace with the way I am," yeah, fine. But I'm sure almost all of us, we are adults, we have experienced this, right? Since our teenage life, we have gone through all the extremes, likes and dislikes. And what is the result? Okay. So I'm sure, so with either extreme, so there is repercussion. So there's some form of suffering. Okay. So the idea that why you should avoid the extreme, either likes or dislikes, is because it will drag you somewhere. Okay. I hope I answered your question. Okay.
Yes, thank you.
All right. So any more question, or I shall call it a night? Okay. Thank you everyone for joining this session. I hope it has benefited you in some way. Oh, there's another question. Brother Anand, are you about to say something?
No. Okay, brother. Play. So far,
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone. I shall see you all in another session. Thanks for listening.
Thank you. Namaskar.